Hello, welcome to Halftime TV. Naranda Brown, your host, and tonight we have a very, very special show for you guys. A topic that has been gaining some traction for the past few weeks as it relates to the USL players being included in the national setup. Now, tonight I have three very, very special guests on my show with me, and I'll take a moment to introduce them in a second. But before I get to it, let me say big thank you to my sponsors, Quick Shipping, RS Sports Store, and CSA Shop. You can follow each of them. The link is in the description. You can get all your latest sporting apparel at RS Sports Store and CSA Shop. They have all your clothing needs. Quick Shipping. Get your stuff in Jamaica from anywhere in the world through Quick Shipping. Now I'll take a minute to introduce the guests that I have on here. I'll go one by one. First and foremost, we have Simon Preston, one of the youngest recipients of the Prime Minister's Youth Award. He's currently a journalist with Television Jamaica, statistician as well, and a very avid Manchester United fan. He is a Reggae Boy correspondent. His show, Reggae Boy Commentary, provides us with the most credible, informative, and reliable news as it relates to the Reggae Boys. And Simon Preston is one of our guests on tonight's show. Our second guest is none other than the man himself, Coach Minzy, reputable source when it comes to Jamaican sports in general. Coach Minzy provides informative, credible news as well as interviews on a weekly basis. His show, his channel, Coach's Desk, has over 6,000 subscriptions and still growing. Check out Coach's Desk on YouTube as well. And he is one of the brilliant minds we have with us as well tonight. Last but not least, we have Ryan from Ryan LFC, avid Liverpool fan and Reggae Boy commentator. He will be a part of this discussion tonight because I saw it fit to get those passionate most about the topic being discussed. Ryan has been following up with the Reggae Boys for quite some time now. The best part of 4 or 5 years, he's been handling his channel as well, which currently has over 6,000 subscriptions as well. So I've put together for myself a very good panel, in my opinion, with some of the most brilliant minds as it relates to the Reggae Boys and whatever they tend to go on with. These are the gentlemen who usually have it covered and brings us the most credible news. Welcome, gentlemen. How are we doing?
Thanks for having me, man. I'm doing well. Trust that everybody else is doing well.
All right, Simon.
Indeed, a pleasure to speak with everyone. Arando, yeah, it's been years. We're coming from far. It's a pleasure to see the project that you have built so far, and all the best to you in this new chapter of your vlogging career. And it's a pleasure to speak with you guys as well.
It's great to have you as always, Simon. Brilliant mind, as I said, viewers. Ryan LFC, welcome.
Having me, man. It's a pleasure to run a big platform like with Coach's Desk and Simon Preston and HalftimeTv. I really appreciate it. To come on this show, man. How are you doing?
I'm doing good. Before I even go any further, what do you guys think of tonight's theme? What are your impressions? What was the first impression when I introduced you guys to the topic that we would be discussing tonight? Simon.
Well, when you mentioned the hashtag to me, it gave an impression like there was a protest towards it, or there was some sort of xenophobia or trying to exit these sort of players from the national program. A part of the setup, and these players have been part of the national team for quite a number of years, especially during Tapa Whitmore's second stint in the national setup in the 2011-2012 period thereabouts. But it came around perhaps around 2017, 2018 when more players entered the United Soccer League. But when you mentioned the title by itself, it gave the impression that we're trying to remove these players from the national program. And if they're Jamaicans in the league, then so be it, but they just shouldn't be part of the setup. That's the impression I got.
Okay, Coach.
Yeah, man. I actually smiled when I saw it because I know that a few of the fans are not really afraid to have USL players in the team. But I mean, like Simon said, they have been around for quite some time under Coach Whitmore's tenure. So I mean, it's something that is a matter of discussion. It's a good topic. So let's see what we can do with it.
Okay, Ryan.
Well, I was a football player, and to be a professional football, especially outside of Jamaica, it's very difficult, and we have to give them youngsters that play in the USL a very good chance. I think they are human being like any other English player that play anywhere across the world. And for me, just to push them out like that, I know a lot of the fans them calling for that. I wouldn't agree with that because I was in the same situation and I want to get an opportunity to play for the national team. I think you have some very good USL players. Some of them are not up to speed, but we still have to give them a chance. And the national team, especially when we come up against some team in the Caribbean Cup, we can use them, but they still should be a part of the team. In this
Okay.
Gold Cup, I think it's going to be difficult for them.
All right, fair enough. We'll get into whether or not they should be a part of the team. I just wanted to get your mindset as it relates to the topic before we get into the meat of the matter. Now, the reason I came up with this topic for those on here who aren't aware, Coach's Desk, Simon as well. I'm an avid consumer of it. I'm getting an echo somewhere. Sorry about that. I'm an avid consumer of both your channels. Your lives, Simon Preston, you do Reggae Boy commentary on Thursdays. Coaches Desk, your show on Fridays. When I get the time, more often than not, I'm tuned in if I'm not working. But what I noticed sitting in the comment section is a lot of persons, especially last week when the list was published, a lot of persons were in the comment section saying no USL player or get rid of the USL players, or even the videos that I did that covering the tour of Japan the other day, the USL players were being bashed, and I didn't see it fair, if I can term it that way, because fear is a matter of perspective. So what you may deem fair is unfair to someone else. But in my opinion, I didn't see it fit that these players were coming under so much scrutiny, so much so that we wanted them out of the setup. And being the Jamaican I'm an avid advocate for local players and for Jamaican bred players. I thought that, okay, I needed to have a discussion about it, because I don't want to come across as being biased. And as you know, objectivity is always key, especially in media. So I didn't want to come across as that person who was being biased on the topic. So that's why I created this little panel discussion for the next 30 or 45 minutes or so. We will see if we can arrive at some resolve on the topic. All right. So let's get to it. Before we get to the USL and all of that, do you guys think the best 11 should be fielded at any given point, or should it be a case where you have 11 players who best contribute to your best player, if that makes sense? Simon, you're smiling.
Yeah, because it's something I've always mentioned every single Thursday, that I think that the best team should take the field, even if it means Andre Blake, Damian Lowe, and Leon Bailey alongside 8 English-born players. I've always maintained that opinion, because when we are sitting in our rocking chairs 50, 60 years down the road, it's not going to say in Wikipedia or in any encyclopedia, Jamaica B team or England C team went to the quarterfinals of the World Cup. It's going to say Jamaica. Of course, we're going to have good memory and remember those integral players that play that important role. But I personally feel the best team should take the field. I know many Jamaicans don't share that exact view, and that is perfectly fine. But I'm just in this business of we have to win. And if we want to get to the World Cup, we want to do better than what we did in France 23 years ago, then we're going to have to go and get results. And any player that can assist the program, absolutely, you should be involved.
Okay, Coach?
That's a pretty easy question, man. Definitely would want the best 11 best players to be on the team, wherever they're from. Simple put.
Okay, Ryan?
I want the best player. I want the best for the country. This is not a club thing. This is Jamaica. This is the Reggae Boys, the national team. This team represent for a lot of people across the world. So why want to not have the best? This is the national team. We should have the best player. And
Okay. Go ahead. Continue. Finish your thought. Finish your thought. All right. The reason I asked that was I was going through it. Simon, you're a supporter of England. I know, and I was looking through England's roster, and I realized that at no point throughout this Euros did they have their best 11 on the field. And I think Andrew Townsend made a point on Talksport saying England should ensure that they have the best 11 to support their best player, who is Harry Kane. So I thought a minute on that, and I was thinking, okay, has Jamaica ever been in a point at a stage or anything where we were wondering what our best 11 was to support our best player? But I take each of the points that you guys made, and I hopefully I can arrive at a conclusion when I'm assessing it further on in the Euros tournament. But Damian Lowe, he made his debut while playing for Minnesota, right? Minnesota was at the time in the North America Soccer League, and currently Damian Lowe is one of the most consistent players in the national setup. If we are to go by the model that is currently being set by those advocates for the no USL players, we would not have had Damian Lowe, because this is another level down, if you get the premise on which I'm coming. So on this basis, what are your guys' impression? How is it that we have so many players in the USL? Is it a lack of the agents doing their job, or is it the quality of the players? Simon, you can lead out. All right, whichever one, it doesn't matter.
Well, essentially, you made mention of Damian Lowe, that 2016 debut versus Guyana. Even Corey Burke as well. He wasn't playing Major League Soccer back then either. It was Bethlehem Steel in the USL, amongst many others, as we went to the Gold Cup final 2017 and also the Caribbean Cup final the same year as well. There are many other USL players that have made that transition, whether it is across the Atlantic to Eastern Europe or Asia, or to MLS by extension, Dane Kelly in addition as well, making that transition to DC United. Now, as it relates to those players that I made mention of, I don't think you should ignore them completely. That's my honest view on the matter. And I spoke with the team manager of the Reggae Boys, Roy Simpson, and he simply put, you have to be dominated in these leagues. Unless you're competing for a spot in the playoffs, the Golden Boot, most clean sheets, then you deserve to be in a national setup. But if you're a player that is fighting at the foot of the table or mid-table, then that's a different conversation to have. But if you're competing for honors in this league, then you deserve to be called up in a national setup. So it didn't surprise me to see 9 USL players in the 60-player pool, 11 if you want to include Amal Knight and Javon Watson, who were recently released from USL clubs. So it didn't surprise me to see that number in particular, and it won't surprise me moving forward to see more players gaining opportunities. As it relates to the other question here, as it relates to the opportunities by agents, yes, the pandemic played its impact because we still had some interest in Eastern Europe, but that is why our players have had to be looking to this USL model, the Lamar Walkers, the Deshaun Anglins of this world.
Not to cut it off, Simon, but even before the pandemic, we had a lot of Jamaicans moving to the USL. So I'm not sure if it's a case where the agents and the contacts that they have, because you and I know being an agent is all about networking. So is it that their network or their web hasn't been cast wide enough? I know the Latin American market is really good as well, but very few of the agents that we have, because most of the Jamaican players, they share agents. Very few of these agents speak Spanish. So do you think this, how do I put it? They're boxed in somewhat, has limited the growth of some of our players, and in retrospect, it is causing like a ricochet effect on the players that we have now who are playing in the USL.
Yes, in terms of where the agent is concerned, their web in particular, outside of the Asian market, the Vietnam, where we say Jeremy Lynch and company, and the USL, the Canadian Premier League and MLS, really those are the fastest way to a quick buck for them, because the demand is there for the Jamaican talents. Whereas to go to Europe, it is much more of a lengthier process. The work permits, the FIFA rankings, also the visas as well, which is a bit more harder. So that is why they'll be willing to let the player get the exposure in the USL and hope 3-4 years down the road that this player can turn into something great. And that's what we're hoping for Kevin Lambert in particular.
Okay, coach?
Yeah, man. For me, I think it is one of those easy pathway. It is one of those pathway that would allow the players to earn a living as a professional player. But I do believe that once these players are in this league, and a matter of fact, any league, and they're operating at a very high standard, then they should be selected. Especially a player like a Junior Flemings. I do believe he would have outgrown that league. But then again, it could be a situation where the agents are the issue, like you said, because these persons are not pulling the strings enough. They are not networking enough to get these players out. And there could be other variables that would have caused them not to be able to make the transition from the USL. But I mean, I think it's one of those easy pathway for the players to play professional football outside of the country. That's my view.
Okay, sticking a pin on that point that you made about it being an easy pathway, right? I realize you mentioned even Junior Fleming. I think he had 10 goals and 9 assists last season in the USL. Anyway, he was one of the top 10 players in the USL last season, right? Yet it just seems as if they're stuck. Whenever they get in the USL, it's almost as if it's quicksand. They can't get out. I did an interview with Andre Lewis last week, and he spoke about being at the heights of his career in the USL as well, and then getting comfortable. Now, I don't know. I'm constantly alluding to the agents, because I think as an agent, you should constantly be looking for better for your clients, right? Now, your client, for example, in this case, we'll say Junior Fleming, at the heights, coming off the high of last season. Would this season not be the best time, or in the off season, to make the move to a more competitive league or to a bigger league, coach?
Yeah, I believe so. But again, are the agents doing the work, or is it a case where the players have gotten comfortable and it with life in the USL in North America and don't want to make a transition? But every player's dream should be, making the transition to Europe and such like. But there are underlying factors that probably we are not close to, or we are not aware of. But I do believe that, like you said, there is like a quicksand situation. When they lodge into the USL, it's like it's there forever. I have not seen improvements in players who have gone to the USL, if you ask me. But it's like I said again, I believe it's a easy pathway to earn some dollars outside of the country for a professional football.
All right, Ryan, what says you?
I think it comes from the structure of Jamaica. You see, the structure we have at Jamaica, the professionalism at Jamaica is not there as yet. Our biggest aim, we should at least get our player in the USL, is a good stepping stone. But what age we should get the player them to the USL? At the age of 22, age of 25. No, we should get the player them shipped to the USL at the age of 16, the age of 17 to build. So by age of 20, they're moving on to a different structure. That's not the case. When you reach at the age of 25, who want to take you? Look at the big club in them in Europe. They're taking at the age of 17, at the age of 18. So we lack a little bit of structure in Jamaica. This is why it kind of hamper some of the players them. When you look at our coach, not big enough or good enough to prepare the player them to get to that next structure. You understand? So that's our biggest weakness. We should use the USL as a stepping stone, get the player them at the age of 17, at least minimum 17, 18 in the USL, spend 2 years in the system, and then move on to Europe. Look at Junior Flemings. He has been dominant in the USL. The reason why Flemings, because I was shocked. He's one of the top players, as you guys said, and didn't make that move. And I said, why? I do an interview with him, and him said, it's very hard to get some local city surf here and not American citizen to go in the MLS. It's really difficult. But what about other league outside? And as you guys come back and said, it's comfortable. Player get comfortable. Okay, I'm making a little bit of money here. They need to push for the high. Sky is the limit, not USL. You understand? That's my opinion. We need to start to get the player them at an early age, and then spend 2 to 3 years and move on to something bigger.
And
All right.
so if I may add to what Ryan said, one of the difficulties that we face, especially on the island, is that our coaches are not up to a certain standard. Because from what we have learned over the past few days is that whenever the agent probably tell the outside person about the player, the coach of a particular club will ask the player or will ask the agent who prepared that player, what level is the coach at. So if they're at a particular level, the interest is going to go down to the ground. So as Ryan said, it is a structure that is messing up this whole thing of players getting out of the country, and a player prefers to move from the Premier League if an opportunity comes and go to the USL rather than staying in the Premier League or at home.
All right, Simon, you want to add anything to that before we move on?
Yeah, I think, Ryan made a point about the age that you're entering the league, and it's true because of the demand that is there for talent, not only in North America, but Europe in particular. I think locally, something that we slowly start to see, but we're not enough in terms of where coaches are concerned on the island. They're not giving the young players an opportunities. Outside of the Alvas Powers of this world, very few teenagers actually get a look in at Red Stripe Premier League, now Jamaica Premier League clubs. So if you're giving them the opportunities at 17, 18, then you'll slowly but surely start to see that transition of players at 19, 20, 21 going into the overseas market. So put trust into these players, because we're talking about development. Yes, I understand your job is on the line, you want to win titles, but we have to think about the future as well.
As you spoke about the development, I remember Ryan had an interview the other day with one of his coaches, and it's the same thing the coach said. As early as the under 12 or under 13 level, the coaches were on the back of the players to win. It wasn't about developing these players. It was about all avenue to winning games. Moving on, do you think this resentment of the USL is also implicative of resentment against our local league? Because most of the persons I had discussions with who are playing in the USL, they indicated that the USL is a higher level than the RSPL. Now, bashing the USL, if this is a higher level than the local Premier League, it would equate then if no USL player should be included in the national setup, it means then no local player should be included in the national setup as well, because they're playing at a higher league than the RSPL. Coach, I'll start with you.
In my estimation, once they're playing in any football league, and I probably need to put a caveat on that, Premier League, the English League, the Championship, the USL, the MLS, once they're playing in those leagues and the players are doing exceptionally well in their particular club, then they could be considered. It can't be
They could or should. They could or should. Could or should. I want to clarify that. Because anything could happen in this world, but should they?
I would say should.
Okay.
I say that with reservation though. But I mean, once they're in the leagues, they and performing well, I think there should also be a cutoff. Whereas if you're in the top 4 leagues, top 4, your team is in the top 4, then if you're performing at a particular level, then your team, then you should be a part of that. Or if you come outside of the top 4, you should be doing above expectation, whether you're a goalkeeper, whether you're a defender, whether you're a striker and you're scoring a lot of goals. So that's my real take on that point.
Okay, Simon.
Yeah. The thinking, as you said, the logic of people in terms of if there should be no USL players, but what about the local players? It should really be. I'm not sure where this mindset about this is a bush league come from, because they're playing in small stadiums. I don't know if it's because it's pure bush around the big because of the cities that they're in. I'm just hoping that there can be some sort of change in sort of the thinking of how people view it, because it's a professional league. These players are getting thousands of US dollars every single month. They get a car from their clubs. They get land in terms of getting an apartment. They're treated so well by fans. It's like being in a professional setup. So I don't understand the big hullabaloo of not having these players involved. And if you were to look at the 60-player pool, honestly, I would perhaps call up 3 in the final 23 in terms of the USL players in this 60-player pool. There's 9 of them, and 3 of them I would carry with me into the Gold Cup squad. For me, you could be playing in the second tier of Antarctica. It doesn't matter where you're playing. It's just all about if you're contributing quite well, and if you can fit into the system, which I think right now 4-3-3 or 3-4-3, which will demand us to be counter-attacking and playing the high press.
Okay, Ryan, we'll take your view on that. I have a question to ask you, Simon, based on that point you just made, but I'll take Ryan's view before.
Well, I think the USL is an okay league, because when you look at it, you have players from Italy, they're from Argentina. When you look at the roster and most of these teams, players that have been playing in the Serie A, playing the USL. So I think it's not a bad league, but people just make it seem like it's a bad league. I definitely think it's much better than our Jamaican Premier League. When you look at the quality, their first touch, the system, a style of play, they move the ball from left to right, outside. Jamaica, one thing I know about the Jamaican Premier League, if you put the Jamaican player them on the stadium, the stadium is, you get much quality football. That's what we see in our Jamaican Premier League over and over and over. So that simple mean it's not our first touch when we play against Tivoli Garden or Tivoli Garden. It's just basically the field. We need to improve our field to bring it up to professional standard. You will get professional performance from the likes of Harborview and Waterhouse on a professional field. And I think some of these things need to straighten out in Jamaica. The field and how they're doing stuff professionally, and players still working in Jamaica. When I was playing professional Premier League, I still have to on a side from 7 to 2 and then leave to go on garden to play start the chain at 4. Remember, I just coming off our site work, and site work, mixing cement, bring up the bucket, and then to go and play football. What type of energy you're going to have? These are the things in Jamaica we need to change. There's no way a player can play professional football and still working. Don't get me wrong.
So
Ryan, in Scotland.
Ryan, do you think though the investment, the level of investment in the USL is one of the contributors to our perception that it is a better league?
Yes, they have a better coach. They get paid. All they do just playing football. While in Jamaica, other football have to do a lot of stuff. Look at it. Tuffy Anderson working so hard at Tankwell. What if Tuffy Anderson never do that work at Tankwell? You don't think you'd get much better with a Tuffy Anderson? Just look at it. We have some quality player over the years, and Jamaican player, it has been dropped. When I was watching the Premier League back in 2007, 2008, 2009, that's the Premier League. We could say at that time our Premier League better than the USA, because the player them we have in the Kevin Leamy and all of these with that one name, Demar Philip, that usually play for Stoke City. You have Giacomino Barrett, you have Spoons, you have some excellent player. We could say 10, 15 years ago the Jamaican Premier League better than the USL. No, the USL passed the Jamaican Premier League.
Okay. Point noted there, Ryan. Simon, you spoke about Kevin Lambert. I'll add Speedy Williams to that as well. Do you think these two players who are coming from the USL, do you think they have justified their selection in the national setup when they've gotten the opportunity?
So the Japan and Serbia encounters, they certainly didn't cover themselves with glory, and it was clear to see that this level that they're playing at certainly is not where they need to be heading into a World Cup qualifying cycle. Although Tapa has faith in these men and has often played them through Nations League, through Gold Cup, etc., he still sees them as part of the pool. And I still believe even if we're able to get Kevin Stewart over the line and Jordan Cousins, then these players will be part of the Gold Cup squad. Have they justified being part of a 23-man squad? I would say so, yes, because they have been reliable in those CONCACAF rounds where we're going to need them to execute. We've seen Lambert he's making his debut 2017, showing that he can do things at a CONCACAF level. Is when we go and play teams from outside of the region where we've seen that sort of difference. Lambert, when he left Montego Bay United going to the USL, he's improved physically, gained a few inches in height, and he's been more on the attacking ends of things. But defensively, from the main point of being a defensive midfielder, a bit slow reading play, and I still think he needs some work in terms of his tackling. I still think it's time for him for a change. Where Eastern Europe, there's an opportunity over in Serbia. I'm not sure if it's going to be taken up, but I think it's time for him to leave the USL. Devon Speedy Williams, the same for him as well. I think his time in the USL, he's done what he needs to do. These two players, they have to leave North America. Have to.
And at 29, I think Speedy needs to get it done sooner rather than later. Coach, what's your view on that?
I just want to reiterate the point that Simon made, because their play in Japan didn't live up to expectation, and it wouldn't have justified their position in the position.
No. That Japan game cannot be used as a baseline to critique the players, and that's my view, because you can't use one game to judge a player's quality. Right?
No, I'm not.
Oh no. For those in the comments who are misguided, I just want to clear that up. All right. So we're not using the Japan game. On the number of occasions that they've been selected, I think Kevin Lambert has represented the country on 12 or 13 occasions or somewhere there. So in that half 1 dozen or dozen plus games for Lambert then, and for Speedy Williams, however much he's played, have they justified themselves, Coach, their selection?
Pretty much I'd say yes, but like I said, I'm gonna go back to the point. If somebody did not see them before and they watch those two games, it would be an eyesore to watch them play, especially in a critical position, the defensive midfield position. I don't think that they actually justified their position. There's a lot of improvement for them, awareness, movement, and all of that. I think needs to be improved, but I definitely feel like as Simon said, the USL is not going to allow them to improve. If they stay there, I don't think they are going to be improving. Making a 23-man squad, I think Tapa Whitmore will go with them, because they have been good to him, so to speak. And I think with good players around them, and they're constant in being invited to the team, I think they will get better having good players around them. But if, like I said, if they stay in the USL, trust me. But for the span of time that they have been playing, I think even in the 2019 Gold Cup, I think they would have applied themselves pretty well.
Currently, we are weak in midfield, and each of you guys know this. Digging in the USL for players, is it the best we can do, Ryan?
Listen, we can do much better. We can do much better. Much better. This country, we are so lucky and we are so blessed that other country build up player and we can just go and pick from, like the UK. And I think at this moment, either the USL player, the agent not doing enough, or they just cannot get a better contract outside of the USL, or they not good enough, or they are just USL player. At this moment, at this current moment, I don't think we should have them in the team, because when you look at the list, you have better quality player. But guess what? We know they're going to be in the team, because guess what? Most of some of these players, they come from Cavaliers, they come from Harborview, they come from Portmore United, and they have a selling class in it. And the federation up to something, they want to make money, so they're pushing them up in the team for they to get bigger contracts. Simple as that. Should they be in the team? Not at this current moment. You have better player in the team. You have better player in the team. I'm not against it. I'm not against the player them. But as we say, we want the best to represent the country. That's all I want to say. We want the best to represent the country. They need to build up them stuff, and they need to get better contract outside of the USL. But for player at the highest level for a national team, you see USA doing this? You see Mexico doing this? No. So why we should have sympathy? It's not our fault. It's not the fans' fault. It's just the reality. We want the best player to represent the country. I'm not knocking the USL player.
So Ryan, based on your assessment, then you're saying the best players play in the best leagues, and if you're not playing in the best league, then you shouldn't be a part of the setup then, essentially.
No.
Because hold on, because say for instance we have a midfielder who is doing well at the USL level, and we have a midfielder who is sitting on the bench in the MLS. You'd prefer we have the person who's sitting on the bench in the MLS over the person who is dominating his team at the USL level.
Yes.
Is that the perspective?
Yes. Look at England national team. Just take a look. Chelsea.
No. I can make references to the England national team because Mason Mount, when he made his debut, he was playing in the Championship. No, I'm pretty sure there were loads of midfielders playing in the English Premier League that could have gotten the opportunity to play, but the coach decided that he was going to give Mason Mount an opportunity. So
how much are the Jamaican player them is a Mason Mount in the Championship?
You never know. Maybe Kevin Lambert is or Mason Mount.
No, but we see when he play outside of CONCACAF, he cannot manage.
Yeah, man. You can't put him in that.
I'm not talking about the quality. I'm just talking about that hidden gem that's playing at the lower level.
Look at this. Look at all the national team. Look at the national team around the world. For to make the Brazil national team, you have to play at a higher level and play consistent for your club, right? Look at the English Premier League. Liverpool, Arsenal, Chelsea. I'm just going to say something because some people crying about this. What about our Jamaican Premier League if we don't play Jamaican player or them in the team? What about this? The national team, Liverpool, Chelsea, Arsenal, Man U, City, that's 6, right? And then go down the pecking order, you have Ramsdale from Sheffield. Go down, you have Aston Villa. You have mostly two Aston Villa in the team. So why the English club not crying about their players not getting in the national team? Because they're not good enough. They want the best player they represent for the country. And for me at this moment, look, it's simple as it. We have better player at this moment. I appreciate the USL player. It's not for them fault. It's the Jamaica and the federation to get them up to speed to the next level to challenge these players we have in the team. Don't get me wrong. Junior Flemings. Look at Junior Flemings.
Hold on. For the folks in the comment section, I'm just playing devil's advocate, okay? So I haven't shared my perspective on anything as yet. I'm just playing devil's advocate and asking the questions that need to be answered. All right. So I don't have a perspective on this as yet. My panelists, they're the ones with the perspectives, and that's the reason I brought them on here to hear them avidly express themselves. All right.
Look at Junior Flemings. Do you think he should be in the final 23? I'm asking you after. Putting you on the spot.
I think Junior Fleming has done enough to be a part of maybe a 60-man squad, but based on the quality that we currently have at our disposal, no.
I think he should.
That's what I'm saying. So where are we going to put Junior Fleming? Because no, based on the quality of the players that we have, we're stacked, especially in the top half of the field. We're stacked for quality, and on that basis, I don't think Junior Fleming gets it.
I respect your point. But what I want to see, the best player put on that national team. I'm not playing, I'm not sentimenting and fronting, I'm doing this and I'm passionate and I want to see the country succeed. Whether it's 23 English-based player, is one nation. And the whole area have a aim and the whole area have a goal for the team to qualify for the goal, win the Gold Cup or qualify for the World Cup. It's going to be a better for the country and better to open up doors for the USL player. Okay, we can trust the Jamaican player. Let's give them a chance.
But again, Ryan, you said you're against the USL players coming in, and then you're advocating for Junior Fleming getting in.
No, I'm saying you have some player we can get were good enough. You have some player were good, but 90% of them not good enough.
I think Junior Flemings is one of the exceptions in the USL.
Yes.
I believe he has outgrown that league. He is way above that league. And I think that's why Ryan would have been advocating for him.
I think
coach, when we say hashtag no USL player, because at the beginning of his statement, what Ryan said was no USL player. He's with that statement. So although Junior Fleming is an exceptional talent that has outgrown the USL, as things stand now, he's still in the USL. So he comes under that umbrella, right? He is a part of that body of players that are a part of the USL, that are the Jamaican players representing the USL. At the beginning of my show, I said the top 10 player in the USL, and Junior Fleming stands out because he's among those players. And when I say top 10, I mean both US, Italian, all over the world, the top 10 players in the USL. So Junior Fleming makes that top 10 list. So when we say no Junior Fleming or no USL player, let me correct myself, we are also saying Junior Fleming should not be a part of the setup. You get what I'm saying? So you can't have it both ways. It's either no USL player or we just allow the USL players to play if they're good enough. And that's my perspective. Whichever the league that you're playing in, regardless where it is in the world, it could be in Egypt, it could be in Sweden, it could be in Switzerland, it could be in Vietnam. If you're good enough and you're showcasing that talent week in, week out, then you should be considered to be part of the national setup. And that's why I think last year or a few years ago, Brian Brown wasn't getting a call up for the national team. And I wrote an article with the Western Mirror speaking about it because at the time, this guy was banging in goals left, right, and center every week. He had surpassed Dean Kelly at Reno 876 in the number of goals that he scored, and he couldn't get a look in the national setup. And I wrote an article about it, and a few months later, he was selected to the national setup. And it's stuff like this. If a player is playing at a particular, whatever the level it is, and that player is doing well, then I think he should be selected. Simon.
But hold on.
Yeah.
I think there's something wrong then with the selection process, because wouldn't you agree that there are footballers who are playing in other leagues in the world that are doing better than some of these USL players?
I agree.
That are not being selected.
I agree.
And I also alluded to the fact that once you're playing in any league in the world and you're doing exceptionally well, you should be considered. And that is not the case. Oftentimes, or USL is the easy go. So I'm wondering if it is a situation where, since the players is an easy go for them to go into the USL, is it also an easy go for the selection process? That's something to consider.
I agree wholeheartedly with what you're saying and the perspective that you're coming from, coach, because as I said, I am a firm believer that regardless of the league that you're playing in, your talent at the end of the day should speak for itself. Because you can't see some players playing in the championship or in the USL and you can just look at it and say, okay, this player is bigger than this. We see Jack Grealish in the English Premier League and we say week in, week out, this player is bigger than Aston Villa. Because we see his quality, we see what he's doing week in, week out. And as a result, he is getting into the national setup. Calvin Phillips with Leeds United, he is getting into the national setup because he is that good. And as a result, he needs to be selected. Simon, I haven't heard from you in a second.
Yeah, to be honest with you, Naranda, I'm very disappointed with your friend Brian Brown because personally, I think he's not playing in a division that he deserves to be in. I'm happy he was part of that Gold Cup squad. He started the game versus Honduras at the office. Fantastic atmosphere, 17,000 fans to be in front of. But there are a number of players that are part of this list that really should be playing in a much higher division. And they are Owen Gordon after that run at the Gold Cup 2017 and that Caribbean Cup run. And there I saw in very areas what this player could do. As you made mention earlier about the sinkhole, when you're in your late 20s or you're approaching your early 30s, it really is the end for you. But as it relates earlier about the Junior Fleming situation, he's done what he needs to do. And as it relates to the Gold Cup squad, I think it's unfortunate because he was called up for those Saudi Arabia friendlies. We know COVID hit him. We know what happened with the United States friendlies. So he hasn't really having an opportunity to prove himself in the national setup after banging in all those goals last season, especially despite all the drama that happened against San Diego Loyal. He still deserves his place, but this season at Birmingham Legion, he hasn't been able to hit the ground running. And the player that is hitting the ground running that has never been called up is the man Nico Brett. What more can this guy do to put the ball in the back of the net? He can score his left foot, right foot with his head. There's nothing more this guy can do. It's like you have to score 100 USL goals for him to get called up, and he's approaching 30. So it's like, and I've said it on my channel already, we call up players not when they're hot, but when they're cold. And it's not only for center forwards, but that's the frustration that I always had as well, not only with Chapa, but the extended body as well. So I think it's quite frustrating, but as it relates specifically to the USL, there are certain players on this list, the 9 in particular, that deserve to be playing in a league outside of the USL eventually. Peter Lee Vassell, Junior Flemings. I gave you my thoughts in particular about Brian Brown, but Lamar Walker and Joshua Anglin.
Definitely agree with Peter Lee Vassell. Brian Brown, he made the move to Europe last year, didn't work out. He got back in the USL. And again, we know that these players, they can deliver in the MLS or in higher leagues. We saw Brian Brown during his stint at Philadelphia Union, his short stint there, and he delivered. He got a number of goals, crucial goals as well for the team. So it shows that they just need to be given the opportunity. And again, you said you're disappointed in the player. I think some of these players need to man up as well and go to their agents and tell them, okay, I need this to happen, and because they're settling, and in turn, we the fans and the commentators or whoever we are who are on the outside looking in, we're seeing them and we're saying, okay, they don't want to leave because they're comfortable. They don't want to leave because of this reason or that reason. When in turn it's a case where they probably want to leave, but the agents aren't doing enough to get them that move. Again, comfort zone of the agent and not the players, in my opinion. Can we do better than the USL, Ryan?
Of course, 100%.
For example,
listen, let me tell you something, Bridget. You see our old structure in Jamaica, you just need to bulldoze it down, and we have a new structure. From top to bottom, we need old trail scenes for things better. Trust me, we have too much gatekeeper. Nico Brett, what he has done, he cannot get a national call-up. Listen, it's if bro, the man them have too much gatekeeper, Bridget. they're just killing this youth just because he did not sign a contract for him club team back in Jamaica. And the same people them were the gatekeeper for Portmore United. He didn't sign a contract for Portmore United, and we know the big person them in the federation from Portmore United were holding back this youth. What the youth have to do, as what Simon said, they're going to wait till the player warm. Should I say when the player get cold, they call him and they say, okay, we're calling him when him cold. Okay, so we give him a chance. Him not at him best form. So him fail. So they can always have it in the open. Okay, we give him a call, but he didn't do well. Call him when him hot. We need to let go off of this friend thing and this gatekeeper and this grudge for player. I've been in that situation, just because my parents could buy 6 back Gatorade or 10 backra water after training. I come from a poor background. We need to leg off of this gatekeeping, brethren. It's a killer footballer. We now go further, brethren. As I said, you have to feel it for knows it, brethren. Feel it of the gatekeeping, brethren. They need to leg off of that and just do the right thing and even have the right people who want to help and to make the football better in Jamaica.
You spoke about gatekeepers just now, Ryan, but you also alluded to the players getting a single opportunity to prove themselves. Do you think the players in the USL and in particular the National League, for example, the RSPL, they're judged differently from players who ply their trade in different leagues?
Yeah, they judge them differently.
Why though? Why have we gotten this mindset that, okay, if a Kevin Lambert goes out and he doesn't do well, or if a Nico Brett goes out and he doesn't give you that performance that he gives you week in, week out at the USL level, he is judged differently from Leon Bailey then, who probably is dominating Bayer Leverkusen and comes in and doesn't give you anything on the national level, or a Beer Turgot or a Andre Gray, whichever one of these players come in and they don't dominate or show you what they can do in the national team. Why is it that we have this double standard in our critique of the English-based players and the USL/local-based players?
You know what? You see, sometimes it's these double standard. Sometimes we have to get blamed for it. I would not blame coaches Dex. I would not blame Simon Preston. I was a person where I have to take it up on my shoulder. Sometimes me myself have to take the blame. You understand? But the end of the day, as you say, why Leon Bailey? Leon Bailey, I'm going to give you an example. From Leon Bailey, bust out of the park. Leon Bailey haven't played 3 good games for Jamaica. Why? No consistent lot of game time for play for the Reggae boys. The last World Cup, it didn't fit. You understand?
But we the energy, that's what I'm talking about,
that's
Ryan.
But sometimes it's a fun. Sometimes, you have the favorite and people love certain players, so they're not going to bash certain player. They will say Leon Bailey can get a pass just because they're playing at highest level. I spoke to player, especially last Japan tour. Player come to me and say, boy, Ryan, you have some people who just deal with the local player, them worse, and them not deal with the English-based player. I give the critics all across the board. And look at it. The centre-back who play for Tilt is not good enough. Not because he play in England. He's not good. It's simple as that.
I think Simon will have a different view on that, but
no, he's not good enough, Bridget. We are better than him, Bridget. We are better than him right now. When you're looking at Damian Lowe better than him. It's just a fact and it's just the truth. We just need to just speak the truth and have the balance.
Coach, you look eager to say something on that, Coach. I'll take your view.
Not really eager, it's just interesting what Ryan is saying. But for me, I believe that the fans are very critical. It doesn't matter where you're from. The fans are very critical.
I have to disagree. I agree with you that the fans are critical.
Let me finish one before you draw your conclusion.
Please do.
The fans are very critical, but in their critique, they have a special place in their heart for certain players. For example, they know what Mikel Antonio can do because they would have seen him at the highest level in England. So if he comes and he has a bad game, then they will say, oh, it's a one game him have and it not so bad. But yet still they will criticize another player. So they are very critical, like I said, but they still share the criticism in a favoritism way, if you understand what I'm saying. So that's it. Ryan is really passionate about this thing, and I can understand his feeling towards it. But I mean, as he said, Curtis still not get ease up. Michael Hector not get ease up, although there's a divide where he's concerned. You know what I mean? I've heard persons spoke about Leon Bailey not having good games for the national team as yet. A lot of fans have been saying that. He has not been having a stellar a few games where you could see that he stood out in a particular game. So I think the fans are critical, but yet still they have their preference and how they actually criticize player by player, if you ask.
Okay, Simon?
Ryan didn't say anything that I disagree with. I agree he's down in the pecking order and there are better central defenders. So Tilt is down there with Ladale Ritchie, who I'm surprised is not even included in Tapa's pool moving forward, because the likes of Ladale Ritchie and Johan Granderson are like Tapa's stepchildren. So I'm surprised that his stepchildren are not involved in the national setup anymore. the Montrose things of this world, we don't see them. So that should be actually a positive in that direction. But I understand what Ryan is saying and the frustration. The Mariapas, the Liam Moores, the Pinnocks of this world, they're ahead of the pecking order. I know there's essentially like a 50-50 divide with Hector, like Wenger in and Wenger out for Arsenal fans. I can understand that. But for me, Hector makes a 23-man squad.
Hector makes a 23-man squad. As you mentioned about the divide among the Hector topic, I can understand that part. The thing is, Hector has earned his selection, some may say, because of what he's done for us in the past. So he's contributed significantly, and as such, he earns that little bit of leeway. But I think in general, we throw them into a category and say, okay, if an English-based player or a person who's playing his trade in England has a bad day in the office, as you say, we know what Mikel Antonio is capable of. If he comes into the national setup and he has a bad day in the office, we say, okay, it's just an off day. But if a USL player has a bad day, we throw all of them into a drum, and we say we don't need any of the USL players, because that person, whenever he goes onto the field, is a representation of all the USL players. But is that fair, Ryan?
God, I don't even know where to start to answer this question. Let me tell you something, bro. Let me tell you something. Let's talk about Hector just a little bit before I answer your question. Hector, sometimes I feel sorry for this guy. He's a very passionate guy, and also some people deal with him sometimes. I picked my 23-man squad and I X him out of the team because I think we outgrow Hector. I think we outgrow a better player than Hector at this moment. There's no way I'm getting so much feedback inside the camp. Why this man in the team? Why this man in the team? Just because he's a British? Let's be honest. In the past, like 2 years ago, we don't really need Hector. But to outgrow Hector, we're a bigger player. And Hector at this moment, too many mistakes. When they're playing at international level, especially international football, you know, Hector is a good player. He played very good. And just one mistake. We cannot afford that. Look at the first Gold Cup final where we go. Hector, he give away the final. And from that time, people don't forgive Hector for that. And that's how Jamaican people are ruthless. You understand? So he's one of these players where I was going to school at the time. And everybody, Hector, not good enough, not good enough, not good enough. I understand that. Do I think him should be in the team now? He can cover a different era. Why Junior Flemings not can get called up for this final 23, but Hector? No, Hector should not get called up. Sorry, brother. You have some work to do. You have to work on what you do. The team is big. We want the best team go out there right now to represent for the country. It's just simple as that. And this is no hard feeling. I said it on my channel. I lego off of the attachment. I don't want to touch with no player. If I don't get no more interview, I will fine with that. But what I am beating for, the next generation coming, for my kids, for it better. That's what I am looking at, the bigger picture. Not to just sit and do an interview or 1 hour with a player. Fine, if you don't want to come and do the interview, fine. What is the question again, my brother?
Michael Hector to USL.
What is the question again?
No, I was asking why do we put them all why do we judge the USL players based on one player's performance and put all of them in a drum? So when one USL player doesn't play well, we say no USL player. However, when a player from another league, regardless of the league that he's playing in, doesn't do well, we consider it a free pass then, or just an off day.
It's just, as we say, just come back down to favorite team. We are Jamaican favorite, and that's the only way I can put it. I don't do that. I change my philosophy. I go back to my giant bone, and I do what I have to do because I want the country to better. It's just a Jamaican thing, and that's the mindset of our fans. We need to break that out ourselves. I said it coming home, the Gold Cup coming home. You know, most of the Reggae Boys fans telling me, we need to be humble. Humble for what? And we have one of the best teams in CONCACAF. We need to have big picture. This is what we need to think big and stop make our mind in the matches box. Think big. We have the team. You're telling me that Mexico going with them C team and USA going with them B team and Jamaica going with them A team. Two runners up in the Gold Cup plus semi-final. We have enough experience in this team to bring it to home. That's the mindset of our people. We need to change our mindset of our people. I was in that situation. Since I come to Canada, my brain started to open up to bigger things. I start to think big. Anything you put your mind to, and anything you meds, that you get.
All right, Simon, I'll take your view on that. After which we'll go through the closing remarks. I don't want to keep you guys too long. The conversation has been quite enlightening, and it's good that we got to shed some light on it. So, Simon, I'll take your view on that. Then I'll take Coach's view, and then we'll go through the final remarks. All right.
So I'm sure for those individuals that are watching live, and even the four of us, if we were to say pen down a 23-man squad, I'm sure all of us would have different tweaks to it. It's subjective, and even Coach Whitmore and his technical team, it's just a reality of the situation. And I might lean towards Lambert based on what I have seen in previous occasions or what I saw in his debut, and Ryan might go with what he's seen from Lamar Walker because of his intricate play in terms of his play. So it's going to be subjective from that perspective, and Coach Whitmore will have his favorite. Just like Gareth Southgate, there are players that he will trust for a job in a particular game, and we're going to come up against teams that will face us in different ways. The physical element, technical wise, like the Central American teams. So he's going to have a squad that can counteract those threats of the opposition. The Americans and the Canadians are going to have the height and size, so you're going to have to be physical. The Central Americans with the Panamanians, the Costa Ricans, are going to play like tiki-taka on the ground, so we're going to have players to try to counteract that. But I still feel that where the USL is concerned, there are gems, not a lot of them, but a few gems that can play a role in a squad. I'm not saying to start, but in a squad, because these are individuals that add good squad morale. I've seen them in and around the team, and they've had to boost, and competition for places is healthy. So it's good to see that they will have that sort of presence. So come the end of the month, don't be surprised to see a handful of some of these names be involved in the 23-man squad. Okay, Coach?
All right. In terms of the funds, that's the question I should answer, right?
Yeah.
Funds will always be funds, you know what I mean? And they will actually be divided with who they like, who they prefer, because of one thing that the player does that attracts them to that player. You know what I mean? Persons hit out on Michael Hector because of a one mistake, and they forgot all that he would have done over the years. And that's how I believe Jamaican fans are. They are very unforgiving. And I mean, Michael Hector, in my estimation, and possibly in Coach Whitmore's estimation, is a very critical part of his team going forward. In terms of what Ryan said, yes, we should think big in terms of winning the Gold Cup. But I have something to say on that. I mean, Jamaica has the team on paper, but football is never played on paper. And I have a mantra that proper preparation prevents poor performance. And we have been having games over a period of time, but we have never had our best team together to make that preparation going into a tournament. So I want us to win, but going into this tournament unprepared, it would be very unfair to the other teams that would have been prepared, because that's not how sports is. Once you prepare, you give yourself an opportunity, you give yourself a chance. If you don't prepare and the field is way subpar, then you have an opportunity to win because you'd be better than the field, so to speak. So I mean, I want us to win, but it's going to be very difficult because of our lack of preparation.
All right. Yes, I think I started with Ryan. So the closing remarks now. Hashtag no USL player, or players should be selected regardless of their league based on their quality. Ryan, are you sticking with hashtag no USL?
You're setting me up, man. I did say no USL player. I said that, right? Oh my God. And you know, so funny, guys. I even realized I said hashtag no USL player. But when we look at my 23-man squad, I have to. So here's what I do. You see what Coach Minzy and what Simon Preston said. Once the player play in any league and they perform very well, I'm going to stick with that philosophy, and I'm going to argue with you guys. This is not back chat on my thing, but sometimes we have to know when you go wrong in life, and you can be a man and say, listen, you know, I go wrong and I want to fix up myself. Once the player play in a league and the player are cut above the league and performing very well in the league, I think we should consider him and give him a chance, because all of us need a second chance. All of us need a chance in life. That's why I always stick with the young goalkeeper Jaden White. Not because he made a lot of mistakes, or to a lot of people he's not good enough, because I am looking at a harder cycle. I'm preparing for the future. I'm not just preparing for a short-term thing. That's what the fundamental of the JFF. They're just thinking about, let's thinking about 2022. I am thinking about the 2026 World Cup in our backyard we should prepare for. So when I'm picking this team, I still have Tyreek Magee in the team. I still have Tyreek Magee, Shamal Nichols. When you look at so much attacking player we have on this list, we still have to prepare for the future. Mikel Antonio, will he play in the next 2026 World Cup? No. You understand? Most of these players in the 27, in the 28, 29. So we have to prepare for a long term. Too many times Jamaican people think about short term. We need to have long term goal. And that's basically what I am saying. But the USL thing, I'm going to stick to what Simon said and Coach Minzy. Once he has been performing at the highest level, or what are the league you are, and you can make national team, why not? So yeah, I think we should rebut on my statement. Once a player good enough, and he can add to the team, play.
All right, Coach, what's your parting words for the avid fans on here who are of the view that there shouldn't be any USL player in the national setup?
It shouldn't be a case where it's a wholesale USL players being brought in, which I don't think it is happening. No USL player. I think it has to have a sort of caveat on it where it depending on for example, a player like Junior Flemings that we alluded to earlier, that is above the league, and based on his high performance previous season, he should be considered a part of the national team. Kevin Lambert is one for the future. Lamar Walker, Joshan Anglin. So I would have them around in and around the team to ensure that their development will be assisted in terms of good players around, so they'll learn from these good players. And I wouldn't want to say that I'll put them in the first team, but they should be around the team.
All right. Thank you very much, Simon.
Yeah, for me, it's simple. No discrimination, no prejudice towards players in the USL. If you're playing in MLS, USL, Africa, Australia, Europe, no matter where you are, you're competing, you're getting the goals, you're having the clean sheets at the back, you deserve to be called up, especially if you're a player that can fit in well with Coach Theodore Tapa Whitmore's system. Absolutely.
All right. There you have it, folks. I'll share my perspective now, having gone through an hour and 10 minutes of these brilliant minds expressing themselves. I think we need to step away from the mindset of putting of grouping players in boxes and labeling them as such. We need to judge players based on their individual abilities and what they have done, what they have contributed, whether it is their respective teams or their respective leagues. Regardless, these players shouldn't be boxed in and said, okay, you're playing in Vietnam or you're playing in Egypt, so you shouldn't be in the national setup. We have players who, based on their quality and what we know they're capable of doing, the likes of Tyreek McGee, they make the cut into the national setup simply because we know what he is capable of doing. What if it were a case where Tyreek McGee, that we love so much and we appreciate him as a youngster coming up with all this talent, that we're bashing him because he's not playing for his team? These are players who are playing week in, week out. They're playing well to the level to be included in the national setup. Our scouts, they go out, they look for players who are needed for particular positions in the team, whether it be a goalkeeper, a midfielder, regardless of where he's playing. And then we select these players based on the pool of quality we have. It shouldn't be a case where we're starting hashtags to say these players shouldn't be included because they're playing in the USL. Because if that is the case, I'll say it again, then we won't have any player from the Red Stripe Premier League playing in the national team. And I'm pretty sure no one in Jamaica would be happy with that. As much as you want to win, you want persons that you can identify with. And I know a lot of folks, especially sitting at home watching this tonight, you can identify better with the players in the RSPL than, say, for instance, a player who's playing in the championship in England. All right, that's my perspective on it. I think that hashtag needs to be dumped and gotten rid of. We have grown past that, and if we're to operate as a team, we can't be segregated to the extent where we're grouping players, the English players or the USL players or the MLS players, or you get what I'm saying? So we need to step away from that. We need to move forward in unison. I've said this in my previous videos, and I'll say it again. Everyone needs to move forward in unison, because if we're creating this air of discontent towards the players from the USL, then who knows, whenever they get called up, they'll probably be doing too much just to prove themselves, because they feel as if there's extra pressure on them to justify their selection in the national setup. All right, Miranda Brown here from HalftimeTv saying, thanks for tuning in. Remember to like, share, and subscribe. Simon, let them know where they can find you. Coach, let them know where they can find you. Ryan, let them know where they can find you. Starting with Simon.
On YouTube, Reggae Boyz commentary, very, very close to 10,000 subscribers there. Twitter, SimeyP93, that's SIMEY, the letter P, and numbers 9 and 3.
All right.
Ryan, Coach.
All right. On YouTube, Coach's Desk. Instagram, Coach's Desk. Twitter, Coach's Desk. And on Facebook, Coach's Desk. Thank you for having me as well.
All right. No worries. Ryan.
I just want to tell you, Bridget, thank you for having me on your platform. I really appreciate it. It should be a longer time, but you don't know the time go and stuff. I really appreciate it. But you can find me at Ryan LFC on YouTube, on Twitter, Ryan LFC 13, on Instagram, LFC Domination. I should change the name sooner or later to Reggae Boyz Domination.
All right, thank you so very much, Ryan. Again, folks, remember to subscribe to the channel. We have a halftime ball talk every Monday, where we interview footballers, coaches, or whoever it is that's in the world of sports that we think is worth contributing content to the program, and content that we can learn from and we can move forward with. Thanks again to all the panelists. Thanks to everyone in the comments. Thanks for your comments. Thanks for taking part in our show tonight. Miranda Brown again saying until next time, we appreciate the love and the support. Peace out.